The Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission formally votes in August on whether to schedule the first black bear hunt in a decade. Here to discuss what that might look like is Adam Sugalski. He's the founder and executive director of OneProtest. Good morning, Adam.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for being here. So, Adam, you're a longtime opponent of bear hunting, and we just want to say at the outset that we reached out to bear hunt supporters to join our conversation. That includes every member of the FWC Commission who has expressed support for the hunt and the agency's chief conservation officer. None were able to join, but we will hear the voices of supporters throughout the morning in some recorded sound that we have. But first, would you just tell us, Adam, what comes next? We know that there was a vote that sort of moved this ahead at a May meeting of the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission. Now there's another meeting coming up next month. What's on deck?
Yeah, the meeting will be, I think I have it on my notes here, August 13th and 14th. It'll be in Havana, Florida, is where they're having the final vote, which what happened last month in Ocala, they passed the new rules. So basically what they could have done is they could have had a hunt like in 2015, which they had to go to check stations. There was limited equipment. In this hunt, they're basically kind of letting everything go. Like you can use dogs, shoot them bows over bait. So they're kind of doing a complete 180 compared to what they were doing. And so we're kind of in shock about what they're putting out these crazy rules with the bears right now.
And that's what's under discussion, right? So they've basically said that the concept of a bear hunt is probably something that they support as a commission, that they think that there's a need for a bear hunt to sort of cull the bear population. But what's still at issue is kind of what the guidelines are going to be, how they're going to structure the hunt. And you mentioned dogs. So explain to us, first of all, how that figures into a hunt. How are dogs used? Why would that be of concern to someone like yourself?
Well, one thing that I had been doing a 5-year investigation into the use of dogs hunting all over Florida in Ocala, Osceola, and Blackwater. Basically, some residents of one of the areas contacted me after the dog hunters were basically kind of talking smack about me, saying, "Don't let this guy Adam Sugalski get up here." And Bressy McKinneth was the name. He's one of the head hounders or the hunter guys. So I basically went up there and learned how the practice is, letting unlimited packs of dogs go to basically track deer down. And then the hunters will drive speed down the roads, get in front of the deer, and then line up like a firing squad to shoot the deer. And these dogs have GPS tracking collars, so they can kind of see on their iPads or their devices what the dogs are doing and where they're going. So to me, it's almost like this militarized hunt. And now they want to do this to bears. Now they will limit it to 6 dogs per person, but if you have 3 friends with 6 dogs, there you have 18 dogs. So it's crazy. They want to kind of release the hounds on these poor bears.
So at the May meeting, there was a fellow named Travis Thompson that we have some sound from. He is the founder of All Florida, which is one of the state's most active grassroots conservation organizations, and he is a supporter of the bear hunt. Let's take a listen.
It's time to have a bear hunt. We can argue about methods, we can argue about numbers, et cetera, but bear is a game species. We recognize it across the country. You saw that in the graphics. It seems like this conversation has shifted from methods and types of support for this rule to whether or not we should have a hunt.
So he's saying, there's going to be some discussion of the rules, but he talks specifically about bears being a game species. Can you kind of explain to us, what does that mean?
Well, we've internally discussed that like a game species. So we don't know how they determine what's a game species or not. I think what they do is a game species to them is they want to keep the population alive just enough so they can kill it and they can kind of reproducing. So they'll have a viable population to hunt. So in our terms, a game species is just something they want to kill.
So I think that if you look at kind of the FWC definition, is that it's, first of all, something that's regulated, that it's not something that's just open season, that there is a state agency that governs how it's done, who can participate, whether certain ecological, thresholds are being observed so that a population isn't being over harvested. And so I think the pushback on that would be that, well, there is, an oversight to this. It's not just a wanton killing of these bears. There's a regulatory agency that's overseeing it.
Yes and no. On paper, that sounds great. But this proposed hunt, they would eliminate check stations, which would be like in 2015, I was at check station 17 in Lake City. So when the bears come in, they would weigh the bears. They take DNA, they take samples, tooth, they tag the bears.
These are bears that have been shot.
Yes, the bears that have been shot. So there was oversight. and so they could count how many bears were coming in. In this one, it's an honor system, so you're basically letting people. Well, they're supposed to call in, but who says they're going to?
So I know that some of those rules are still going to be decided, but at a bear check station, the one that you were at in 2015, that provided you with a certain level of access to see what kind of bears were being brought in. You were also able to photograph the bears that had been shot as they were being brought to these check stations to be weighed and recorded. And that ended up being a fairly powerful tool in your arsenal when it comes to pushing back on the bear hunt, because you had photos that a lot of people found very upsetting, including bears that appeared to be perhaps mother bears.
Yeah, the first bear I took a picture of was a lactating female, and that kind of picture, I would say, went around the world. It was featured in all sorts of European newspapers, online, and even I think in Australia. So, I mean, where were her cubs is kind of the big question after that. So there was accountability, and giving us access to that held the agency accountable. So now they don't want to be held accountable. And one of the things I want to point out, when I was doing my investigations in the different forests for the against the deer dog hunting, I rarely saw an FWC officer. I was pulled over one time by one asking for hunting license and stuff like that. But other than that, I'd never really seen them patrol the areas. I know in the Panhandle where I was documenting this, it's right near Alabama border, and the Alabama game wardens will sit and wait, because when the dogs trespass in Alabama, they'll find the hunters. So it seemed like there was more wardens in Alabama going after the dog hunters than there were, wardens and FWC officers monitoring the dog hunters.
Now, we should say that there has been kind of broad opposition to this. I mean, in terms of just the numbers of people that FWC has heard from at these public hearings, or in the feedback they've received, written feedback. There's generally more people that oppose the hunt, but there are plenty of people that do support it. And I want to take a listen now to Diane Egelman. She's a retired FWC biologist, and she also spoke at the May meeting.
My name's Diane Egelman, and I'm a retired FWC employee. I was a wildlife biologist for the agency. I'm happy and thankful to be here today to see this proposal. It's the common sense management action given the state of Florida's bear population. Scientifically, there's essentially no risk here in terms of conserving black bears. The scientific basis is up to date, and it's among the very best. The hunt proposal is well thought out and solid. It incorporates what we learned from the 2015 hunt.
So she obviously has experience working with the agency. She says it's well thought out and that it's based on data.
Actually, she was at the check station in Lake City when I was documenting the bears, so I'm familiar with her. And that she's saying it's science-based, well-regulated, but without check stations and then using bows over bait and dogs, I think they're taking all the regulations out. So it's almost like they're talking out of two sides of their mouth here. They want to have a regulated hunt, but they're pulling all the regulations. So, I mean, what is it? That's where, and yes, potentially they could kill some bears and they could damage the population. It's a big question mark, and we don't think it's worth doing that to the bear population. They have enough with development and, people leaving their trash out. They have enough problems. And one thing I want to point out is you see more bears all the time. People have Ring cameras. There's more phones. There's a lot more cameras everywhere. So I think a lot of that's attributed to people seeing bears because there's security cameras all over the place. Pretty much everybody has some kind of Ring camera these days.
If you're just joining us, we're talking to Adam Sugalski about a proposed bear hunt. You can join the conversation by giving us a call at 904-549-2937. You can also email firstcoastconnect@wjct.org or reach out on social media. And in just a bit, a big announcement from Sporting Jacks as they welcome global competitors from two upcoming soccer games. We'll tell you which teams are going to be playing in that international friendly, that series, here in just a couple weeks. So hang on for that in a little bit. I want to ask you, though, you're talking about Ring cameras, the increasing visibility of bears, but I think one thing that is top of mind for a lot of people is the first fatal bear attack that occurred in Florida history, in southwest Florida, in Collier County, just recently, right around the time of this vote. How is that impacting the efforts of people like yourself or people who oppose bear hunts? I would imagine that it's gotten a lot more challenging in some cases to make the case that bears are a benign population. They're not threatening to humans, which is typically what we've heard from anti-bear hunting voices.
Yeah. Well, it's my condolences go out to their family. It's a very unfortunate what happened, but also we got to remember this is with the first and only bear attack we've had so far in the state of Florida, and that actually goes to reinforce the point to me that bears are not dangerous. I mean, it's unfortunate what happened, but the hunters love to point out, oh, we got to go get the bears now. It's almost like they're kind of chomping at the bit because a person was killed, so it would seem like almost justify their actions. But black bears. I mean, how many black bears have we've had encounters with all the time, and no one has been killed yet? So
You mean like the exception that proves to the rule? I mean, why do you think that this speaks to their not being dangerous?
because there's been so many bear encounters through Florida with garbage cans. There have been attacks where usually it's involved cubs walking a dog, but no one's been killed, and it's been happening. So I think this goes to show you that bears are not dangerous. It's a very unfortunate accident that happened, but I don't think we should be putting a target on bears because of it.
But it probably has changed the debate. Would you
Yes,
concede that?
I would. To be honest, your average person I talk to, I don't think it's shifted the metrics of who wants a bear hunt or not. I just think it kind of reinforces the people who want the bear hunt, and they're using this as an excuse. But I don't think more people want to kill bears because of this.
I do want to hear some from the meeting once again. And again, we're just trying to make sure that we get all voices in. But Gretchen Hoke, she's the executive director of Rain Frog Ranch, which is an education and conservation organization here in Florida. Let's listen to what she had to say.
Hunting, when guided by science and ethics, is a legitimate and time-tested conservation tool. It's a core part of the North American model of wildlife conservation, which this commission upholds and I fully support. Let's be clear, this is not a trophy hunt, and dogs can be used as a solution to issues seen in the previous hunt. But while land protection is critical, it's only part of the solution. Overdevelopment is contributing to the fragmentation of habitats, and active wildlife management is necessary.
So she kind of gets into the issue of, the pressures on bear populations. She obviously is a believer and supports bear hunting as a way to control the population, make sure that it's not interfering or impinging on people's safety. But what is the overall picture when it comes to the development pressures that she alluded to?
Well, there is development pressure. We all know Florida's a lot of. I mean, how many people move to Florida a day? It's thousands, I think, move to the state a day. But one thing I kind of want to go back to is about the hunt is in December, Mike Orlando, the FWCA biologist, when they were asked about the bears, they said there's no action needed. There's no hunt. The staff was not pushing for a hunt. It was Gary Lester, who is a commissioner there, who's a land developer, solely pushed this hunt. And I'm sitting here right now in this chair because of Gary Lester wanting a bear hunt. The FWC was not pushing this. So when they keep saying science-based hunt, well, the FWC really didn't, the staff wasn't pushing this. It was one commissioner who pushed it.
Well, I want to ask about that because I know that FWC has gotten a lot of questions about that. They were presented by staff, the commission, at this December meeting, with kind of an update. Here we are with the bear populations, and this is our findings. And as you know, there was no, quote, no action requested at this time. That's kind of the notation that was in the record. But FWC has made that one of their facts, like their frequently asked questions on their website now, addressing that, which they say, the bear management program was asked to provide an update at the December 2024 meeting. Because no request for action, the staff indicated no action requested, but they say that's standard language because unless a commissioner is actively requesting a position or a recommendation, the staff by default would just say no action recommended.
Yeah, I mean, I think the staff might come back if there were problems with bears being overpopulated in one areas and they might maybe wanted to hunt the staff. Okay, we might need to reduce some bears in the area. That might have come back, we think. But yeah, it is standard language, but I don't know why one commissioner would be pushing this hunt. And at the last meeting in Ocala, when Sonia Rude, I talked about how painful
she's a commissioner as well.
Yes, Sonia Rude, and she lives in Jacksonville. I was talking about how bow hunting is very painful for bears. I'm not going to get too graphic here, but they try to go for double lung shots so the bear suffocates on its own blood and bleeds out. Well, if you don't get it just right, the bear might run off, and it might take hours or days. And a wounded bear, they're very strong animals, high endurance. They're running through the woods, and a lot of people aren't going to go chase them. But when Morgan Richardson is the FWC hunting management director, Sonia asked him, well, is that true what that guy said about bow hunting? And all he said was, well, that's not my opinion. What kind of answer is that when you're talking about like some animals suffering from a type of hunting? And so
And so won't those kind of be the things that the commission is able to delve into more thoroughly, though, at this upcoming couple day meeting in August? I mean, the question of technique, how they're going to implement the bear hunt, all of the rules governing it. I mean, isn't that the forum at which concerns like that might come up, and commissioners would have an opportunity to learn more about those?
Yeah, that's what we're really hoping, especially with the people can go to the dogwars.com is where I updated for the dog hunting investigation so that they can see what dog hunting is like, and it's not graphic at all. I purposely did not put graphic images so the public could watch it. But also too, the FWC should be going over all this in detail. In the Ocala meeting, they should have gone over in detail, but they did not. It was almost like they started to talk about it and then, nope, let's just vote on it. It was almost like hit the gavel, done. And we were kind of like, wait, you're not discussing these serious issues. So we're hoping they do it in Tallahassee, but we don't know at this point. It's like they're fast tracking it.
We've got a call from Matt in Jacksonville. Good morning, Matt. Go ahead.
Good morning. Thanks. I just wanted to say that whenever you herd the animals, that's not hunting. You know, if we had a hunting season where the dogs couldn't be used, then that would be a more consistent and regular-based thing rather than once every 10 years. I've been a hunter all my life, and herding the game with dogs is not hunting. Also, the overdevelopment in certain areas, that's contributing to the visibility of the bears. You know, they're losing their homes. They're going somewhere, and people are going to see them more whenever we clear cut 500 or 1,000 acres at a time for a few houses.
Thanks, Matt. Appreciate that.
No, he's right, and I also would say, like, I'm not anti-hunter. I am just anti on these bear hunting and some of the certain methods of hunting. I think there needs to be reform in the dog hunting, and I think because there needs to be more oversight also as well with the FWC. So that's kind of one of our points with this bear hunt. Like, you're doing a 180, no reinforcement. I mean, no enforcement, law enforcement, and you're saying it's science-based and regulated, and that doesn't make sense to us.
I mean, they have said that they're going to be focusing this hunt in December. It would be about a 3-week hunt. I believe that the quota that they've set would be about 187 bears. Does that sound?
Yeah, I think it's 87 spread out, across the different areas.
What, 187?
I thought it was. I mean, that's not. I don't
Yeah,
know
that's the number I have. I
Yep.
didn't want to. I wasn't sure if you said 87. So this would be in maybe a 31 county area, and they say that they're focusing on managing the bears in the largest subpopulation, which is kind of central Florida.
Yeah.
Does it make sense that they're concentrating it in a place where there's the greatest population?
Well, that's where they could probably take in their minds take bears without damaging the population, because once you get to a certain number, you get genetic isolation and inbreeding, and then you have unhealthy bear populations. And one thing I wanted to mention is they're also talking about the privatization of bear hunting. You know, Florida's, I think, the number one canned hunting place in the United States.
The number one
canned hunting.
What does that mean?
Where you basically can go and they have exotic animals you shoot for fun, like they'll import animals from other countries, and it's like hunting ranches. And they want to allow people with private land, tracts of land, to have special permits to kill bears. So they could be turning some of these private properties could be basically turning in their own like bear hunting ranches now.
So people could pay to come and hunt
Yep.
for bears. Talk a little bit about baiting, because I know that's something that's also going to be considered at this August meeting. What is baiting? How does it work, and why is it of concern to people who oppose bear hunting like yourself?
Well, there's a notion of a fair chase, and hunters a lot of people see the movie Last Mohicans where they're running through the woods chasing down the bear, and some hunters oh, we're hunting, it's fair chase. Well, baiting is the complete opposite. Bears have such a great sense of smell; it's going to be very hard to get close to a bear for a bow and arrow shot. So I know it's like in New Jersey, they'll dump piles of donuts down, hide in tree stands, and shoot the bears in the back while they're eating donuts. I mean, it's not hunting, it's sadistic. So baiting an animal, luring it into this area to a kill zone where it's an easy shot.
But we don't know that anything in Florida would resemble that. Is that right? I mean, that's something that the FWC would have to decide upon.
If they move forward, and you can shoot bears over bait, that could happen. I mean, if you go to like the stores like Academy, you can look down the aisle of all sorts of like deer bait, all sorts of stuff like scent blocking. It's crazy, all the technology out there to hunt. And baiting's just very easy. You get a close shot on a bear. It's going to come up for some food and you're hiding and he's not paying attention to you.
So let's talk a little bit about what's still up for discussion. I mean, there was a 4-1 vote at the May meeting to move it ahead to this August meeting. Not all of the commissioners were present and voting at that prior meeting. So what are you angling for as an advocate and somebody that opposes the hunt? And what opportunity do you think there is to change the fact of the hunt?
Our biggest things that are folk for me, myself, I can't, a lot of activists and other groups are taking different angles. And one of our angle is, they've got to readdress these rules and pull out the dog hunting and pull out the bows and the baiting. And once they pull those out, they're going to have to revisit the whole thing. So that's why we think they don't want to do that. Because if they do pull certain rules out, they'll have to go back to the drawing board and they won't be able to move forward with the December hunt.
Why is that? Is that just because what they've chosen is like option 2, and option 2 included looking at the rules?
No, I think they're procedurally, if they start pulling out rules, they'll have to go back and redo it.
And so their May vote essentially co-signed having these elements, baiting, bow hunting, and dogs.
Yep, exactly. So that if they rubber stamp it in August, it's a done deal. And then one thing in these new rules, they shift the responsibility for some of the commissioners to the director. So if this goes forward, from what we've been reading, is that this won't have to come up again with the FWC commissioners. The executive director can make the decision for bear hunting moving forward.
It would be sort of a reoccurring basis.
Exactly.
And the commissioner could kind of make that decision.
The commissioners wouldn't have to deal with it anymore. The executive director of the FWC would be in charge of taking if the hunt would take place or not.
All right. We've got a call from Christine in Palm Coast. Good morning, Christine. Go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. I just turned the radio on for like a minute and a half when I came into the house, and I don't have to listen to the whole program, but I just believe people ought to just leave the animals alone. This is 2025, and I believe that the Fish and Game Commission, Fish and Wildlife, those are the people I believe that should be quelling, an overpopulated species of animal.
Oh, sorry, Christine. I get the gist. So basically, remind us if you can. This hunt went off 10 years ago, 2015. What was it? What were the lessons that were learned then at the time, and why was that hunt as controversial as it was? I mean, it was closed down early.
It was supposed to run for 7 days, and 304 was the quote or the bag limit, and it was broken down to several BMUs, which are bear management units, and the Panhandle Bear Management Unit was supposed to kill, I think, 40 bears, and they ended up killing 112 or 17 in 24 hours. They went over their quota 3 times. And the hunt was called off after 48 hours because myself and other
When
bears,
you say they went over their quota, I mean, they kind of reached their quota unexpectedly early.
Yeah, the bears came in so fast. It's like they had over 100 bears in 24 hours. They're supposed to kill 40. So that they shut that down right away.
In that day.
Yeah, the BMU was shut down.
But they didn't exceed their overall quota, just to be clear.
Oh, no, not the overall quota,
Okay.
just that quota in that bear management unit. But since we had people at every check station monitoring the bears, calling the central number, we counted our bears. So at the end of Sunday night, when they hit like 297 bears, Chuck O'Neill called the FWC's a person we work with. And he says, call the hunt off. You got to go over your quota. I mean, you're hitting this in 2 days. What's going to look like in a week? And they did. And if we weren't there in this oversight, what would have happened? Now take 2025 hunt, no oversight, no public accountability. It's in dogs, bows. It's going to be really bad for the bears.
Got a call from William on the South Side. Good morning, William. Go ahead.
Good morning. Thank you for this conversation. I am not a hunter. I've never been hunting, but I have friends that do. But I'm listening to the gentleman talk, and I hear the passion in his voice about this. My question is, how influential in this bear hunt are developers that want to develop particular lands for homes or malls or businesses? And the other question is there a similarity between a deer hunt and a bear hunt? Because a lot of communities used to have deers. Now they have no deers, but they're named after deers. And this is very pressing and important because we're talking about doing something that's going to eliminate different species of bears that may not ever return. So thank you for the answers.
Thanks, William. I mean, noting there's also a lot of developments named after trees that are no longer there. But certainly, there are some named after deer that are no longer there.
No, he makes a great point. And, Gary Lester, the FWC commissioner pushing this, is a land developer. He is in the villages, and we think it's very suspect that why would a land developer be pushing it? And I'm sure there are relationships behind the scenes with developers and the FWC, which I'm not privy to those, but a developer pushing this who's a commissioner. And he's absolutely right. Like, it's kind of ironic that you have deer wood in all these places where there are really no deer left.
Yeah. So, Adam, this meeting, as you said, is the 13th and 14th of August. I mean, there is certainly more information people can get at the FWC website, and they have an extensive, FAQ page.
Mhm.
Is there a page that you, on the other side, would refer people to if they have questions?
Yeah, you can go to our website, beardefenders.org. We have a petition to sign. We're encouraging people to go to the meeting. You can learn all about, like, we have FAQs as well, like myths versus facts. Because a lot of bear hunters will want to push these narratives that just aren't true anymore. And so, and they can go there and learn about everything, and hopefully they attend a meeting.
All right. Well, Adam Sugalski, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate the update.
Thanks for having me on here. This is great.